So welcome to another episode of Are We Convinced? It's the podcast where we deep dive into the strange, the funny, the serious topics that have captured our attention throughout the week. And the special guest today, Ryan A.
The strange.
The strange. The strange. Which category do you fit
the
in
strange,
there?
the funny. I pass for the podcast.
Yeah. You do indeed. We have had a wee bit of a radio theme. So we had
Great.
like Stuart Bamford, we had Paul Orr, we had PK in the previous episode.
Yes.
So we're kind of full. And I did try to say there's no agenda with this podcast, but it almost seems that way now. We've got to fit into that kind of thing.
Brilliant.
So how's things for you anyway, first of all?
Yeah, class.
Good.
Absolutely class. I still feel like I'm living life in the fast lane with this job. I like to be busy all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're asked to come on to like podcasts and stuff like that, it's like, it's great. It's another thing to do. I think, and you understand in this world, it's all go. You don't get, it's not a 9 to 5 or a set hours. It's just whenever you get the work and you go for it. But loving it, can't complain. I'm doing what I love for a living, so long may it last.
We did kind of start each episode with a bit of a background, and like the first question I would think of is, do you remember your first gig? Maybe not necessarily a radio gig, but do you remember your first? DJ gig?
It was. It's quite a funny one actually. It was a birthday party, and I don't know what age. Maybe about, I don't know. I was 13 because I got my first set of decks at 13. Was very inspired from the Kevin and Perry Go Large movie. Yeah. So the music that I had for the birthday party was all on vinyl. So I had to belt drive, Sound Lab belt drive, which weren't great by the way, turntables, and then a wee Sound Lab mixer. Took it to the party. It was in a community centre in Tullycarnet, I think it was. I was doing a birthday party, right? So I had all these big tracks from Kevin and Perry Go Large. But the main tune then was Shaggy, It Wasn't Me, right? So I had, Fragma, Toka's Miracle, Isla, all these big summer anthems, and then it was like, right, folks, here we go. Yeah. Shaggy, It Wasn't Me, and I remember I got through that gig in probably about 7 records.
Did it go down well though? That's the good thing.
I can't remember. I think the kids were just all playing on a bouncy castle, and I was just standing. I was just playing music in the background. I got through all my tracks and I put them onto the B side. Then, how times have changed in terms of playing music. Yeah. It's crazy. Anyone coming into the industry now don't realise how lucky they are, because going back, it was so expensive for vinyl. I was still 13. Like, I was having to ask my mum, can she buy me records? And the records were anything from 7, 12 to 15 quid. From record stores, independent record stores, HMV, and even online, where you had to phone up.
And to build that collection,
I know I had some collection, and I think I sold some over the years, and I don't know what I done with the rest of them, but they're all what we class as club classics now. I wish I still had them and had a decent set of record decks to play them on, but you wouldn't get away with half them in the clubs now. I think there's the odd Taylor Swift track coming out on vinyl. But apart,
it's like the novelty kind of thing. It's nice. It's nice that it's kind of going back that way for home listening.
Yeah,
I don't think it's ever going that way.
Clubs, For people who love the whole having the vinyl. People get these wee, is it Onyx or something? They get these wee vinyl things, and they play just their favorite records. The sound quality is brilliant. But in terms of doing a gig now on vinyl, you see a lot of guys on TikTok doing gigs, and they're using vinyl. They've got some collection. You would need a master bedroom to store all your vinyl.
And a lorry to bring it to
I know, to bring it to the gig. That was the other thing too. As the vinyl collection got bigger and bigger as you were going to gigs, you then had to maybe 5-6 runs from the car back in. As I was getting older and then learning how to drive, and I was going to gigs, luckily we were sort of easing into playing off CD, but even at that, you were walking in with all your CD cases, and everything was all noted, on where your tracks were. But now, just in the click of a button, you can get your song like that instantly and stream from anywhere.
And I suppose that, along with radio as well, that kind of just goes hand in hand, really, from what you were doing. Out and about.
When I think it was when I was 17 and realised, Yeah, so I got into it very early, 13, and then when I was 17, it was actually a friend of mine I was working with at the time, doing a bit of work, and he said, "Here, there's a radio station in Belfast. I think there's like a community radio station. They're looking for DJs," and I was like, "Right, okay." And it was what's known now as Blast 106. It was owned by I don't even know who owned it at the time. I went down. There was a guy Darren. I've still got Darren on Facebook, and I remember Darren saying to me, fair play to him. He says it was about 11 o'clock. He asked me to come down in an office building out the back of it was back of a shopping centre, and he says, "Have you ever done radio before?" Right, and I was like, "Nope." And he's like, "Do you know how radio works?" Yeah, I think so. And he says, "Jump on there and let me see how you do it."
There and then.
Yeah. During his show.
Yeah, during.
And so I put the microphone up, and all of a sudden I started talking like I was talking to the audience of the nightclub, and the gig. I was like, "Right on the way, here we go, right, folks," and I was giving it all that. And he looked at me and he says, "There's potential. There's a bit of work in your life, but there's potential."
Do you ever just thinking of that? And that is one of the stations that I started off at. I went to Lisburn's 98 first, and then I moved to Blast.
Yes.
And I think of some of the demos that I made during those stints.
Yeah.
Awful.
I know.
Did you ever
I
listen
know.
back to your old demos?
Yeah, and one of them actually got me into Cool FM, and I don't know how. Yeah,
Right.
so I was just, I remember then someone in radio had turned around and said, "See, this is an opportunity for you to learn and grow and take the audio and take it for what it is. Yep. Enjoy it, right? But community is to learn the game."
Yep.
So I was like, right, but I was just keen and hungry, and I was listening to other DJs and more or less like mimicking what they were saying and learning and writing stuff down and listening to how they were executing links. And I thought, right, okay, and it's easy to pick up the game. It's more about learning your voice and how you use your voice. You could be a fantastic DJ, but you could be sounding dead robotic down, and you need to get rid of that microphone, get rid of the headphones in your mind, and just talk normal. Too many people putting on the American jockey sound.
And like, because there is no class really. You can't go to class and learn how to speak like that.
Yeah, exactly. You need to learn your voice. You need to learn your voice. You know how the newsreader always has this voice, and the and finally, finally. It's learning how to just be natural, but use it in a nice, polite sort of radio way. What is it? What is it? I don't know, but you find your voice very quickly, and I think that's me now, and that's how I speak. But growing up, I was more Spidey. I was, or rate mate.
Because it is like, and along those lines, it's just clean yourself up a wee bit. It needs to be your real voice.
Yeah,
but clean.
But you also need to sound like a likable guy.
Yeah.
When you're listener, and the advice that I was always given is when you're sitting there, imagine you're sitting there and someone is sitting beside you, just like we are now. How do you talk to them? You're nice, you're polite, and if they ask you the time, you don't say, "Well, it's almost 3. I'll say, if you ask me the time, Peter, I'll say, "Yeah, nearly 3 o'clock or 5 to 3. Deliver the way you're talking to the listener. You're talking to that one person. But over the year, every day is a learning day in radio, and you know that. You'll always learn, and always be things change along the way. How you deliver things, how you execute things, how to make things, how to deliver something quickly, and neatly and understandable.
And over the past number of years, like you've done, would you say you've done every single show that's possible? Every time slot anyway?
Owning a show and calling a show mine. Only mainline, haven't had a mid-morning show. I have covered every show, even down to the earlies, the overnights and whatever, and that's where you start, and that's great. I remember my first time on Cool. My very first show was after Stephen Woods in the night time. Some may remember the bedroom session. But I was in early, and I was torching Woody at the time. He was uncool. At 11 o'clock, he was just about to get tore into all the love songs, and I was like, will I be okay?
Yeah.
And he just, this young guy, he's keen to get on. I was when are you done? Are you done yet? Let me on. Every show, I've done it. Every program,
Like, and obviously, and I have said, like, there's no agenda with this podcast. I'm not kind of here to promote stations and all of that, but like, you did breakfast radio for a while, and I did breakfast radio as well.
Oh yes,
for 2 years.
Oh, we know. We know the pressure. You age very quickly.
it's now everyone says it's a slot on radio that everyone wants. It's the show to go for. Yeah. I think once you've been in for those hours in the morning, your alarm is set for like 4 a.m. and you've been on air at 6. It's hard to see that when you're there.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's hard
tough.
to
It's very tough. It's sometimes you wake up and you can your head's away with it sometimes, you know, and then you have to go in, be awake, and be funny. Mm-hmm. Nobody's saying you have to be a comedian. Yeah. And this is what this whole thing of you have to be funny. Mm-hmm. Can you be relatable, and then you can do it? Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but trying to be happy is more the better term.
I think there's a fine line as well.
Isn't there? Yeah. So you're the one that has to get up and you know, perk everyone else up. Yeah. And everyone else that's listening, for the guts of what, when they get up at 6 a.m, they're not happy. Mm-hmm. So that's how which it's sad to say, that's why radio jocks in the morning can get a lot of hate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because people are hearing them at the time that they don't really want to be bothered. Yep. And I remember at about 6:15 in the morning, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just sat and hit my face and be like, right, this next one I'm going to get this right. Are you ready? Right, I'm ready. And you'd be like, right, get ready to go. Delivered the link, and you'd got a message in on WhatsApp saying, you two need to do one. And I was like, that's me knocked out of the park. You know,
and that's almost where I have so much respect for the likes of, you know, like the Pete Snoddens, the Gary and Glenn, you know, for doing it in such number of years in a row, like to even mentally prepare for that. Because I almost felt that your day was ruined.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
After that slot, you know, not that it's a bad slot to do. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
No, it does.
It takes a toll on you. You know?
And as a parent of I had a young child, and you did as well during your time, and it was hard to do that, come home, be a dad, and be good at that without your eyes closing at 1 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon. So once you hit 1, you hit a brick wall, because your time started at 5. Or 4:30, 5, and when you got to 1, your body's going, dude, you need to sleep. Yeah. So I was sitting, Peppa Pig was on, and I'm just sitting, and I thought, do I want this, or do I want my daughter seeing me sitting? You're constantly sleeping on the sofa, or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when I do have the freedom to go out, nice day, take her to the park instead of my eyes constantly closing. Yeah. It's very hard
because it is, and people may not even think this, but when you get into the studio, like it is full on. You're not just sitting there for 4 hours and doing nothing. You know.
Yeah, this perception of you're lucky, you just sit there, you chill. No, it's not like that. And if you are doing that, you're doing it wrong. You know, it's life in the fast lane. Yeah. Once you get in, I always say, like, people say, oh, you're lucky, you work for 3 hours. I say, but that feels like a 6 or 7 hour job. Yep. You know, things flying at you left, right, and centre, keeping control, keeping us on air, phone calls coming through, competitions, live reads, and making sure you're doing it right, and not making a balls of it, you know. So that's
and it almost is a full day of preparation. When you think, because say, I mean, you're now 1 to 4, afternoons. So like, I would think, you know, from 9, 10 o'clock, you're thinking of the show. And then after 4 o'clock, you're thinking of the next show. So it's never, it's not stopping. Yeah.
Because you're constantly thinking about how to be relatable with the listener. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes go in and I sit down on a Friday when my show starts for the afternoon run, and I go, what have I done this week to be able to talk about it? Yeah. Because you have to have been there and lived it to be able to talk about it. And sometimes I've done absolutely nothing, or stuff that's really not relatable to the listener. So you really need to start getting into stuff like what's happening on Netflix, Prime. What are you watching? What's everyone else watching? When they were all talking about these movies, I was like, well, I got to get into it and at least watch at least about 20 minutes of it to know the storyline so I can relate to my listener. And then sometimes you can bluff it and you can you can make it up, you know. But hey,
and that's a skill in itself.
Yeah, it is. But look, everyone is, you know, even TV and even the best TV. Sometimes they're making radio and they're making TV to make it sound good and it's interesting for the listener. So, but yeah, you need to live it to be able to be able to tell everyone else about it, you know.
Now, almost to link into one of my first kind of "Are you convinced?" questions, right? I want to talk about DJing a wee bit as well. So obviously, you know, weddings and events, you're well known for that. Again, well, actually, the first question I want to ask is, do you get nervous before doing any gig?
Not gigs, no.
Not gigs.
I still feel the little bit of nerves for radio every now and again.
Right.
But I think that's healthy. I think having the nerves is great.
Yeah.
You know, with gigs, no. Although, if I walk in and I read the room and I feel like they're not going to be on top form, then I start to get more worried on what I'm going to play for these guys, you know. But my nerves have gone. I used to get very nervous about what I was going to say on the microphone, how the night was going to go, but it'll lead you away. You just gotta go in and be your best. And I always have this mentality of, I know it sounds very big headed, but I always go in and say, I am the best. This is what I do, right? Yeah. And that way I can deliver as the best, you know.
And that's hard when you get a crowd that aren't maybe as responsive or aren't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say aren't loving it, but there's just some crowds that just don't get it sometimes. They're just not there for that.
They just don't. And this is the problem. Like, you know, I could have 2 nights side by side. One night could be off the wall, absolutely bouncing. They don't want you to end. And I could do another night, similar style, maybe change it up a wee bit, saying that they may not be moving to some of the songs. And they're just not up for it. It depends on what sort of an event that you're doing, but and
I would say, especially for weddings, because I mean, you get people who go to weddings and they're not going for the entertainment. You know, they're not specifically there to dance to the entertainment and the night. And it's those people who sit at their tables and stare at you. I
know. It's hard. It's and it's really deflating as well. And I always say, look, I'm not a miracle worker here. I'm not magic, and I can't make. All I can do is keep playing songs until I find what you're biting at. I do find it harder for bands, right? Because a band has to play out that song. So if they go into a track and the dance floor leaves, they got to continue. you know, there's no short edit. You know, or mixing out of it. Whereas, and you know, because you are band and DJ, you can go, okay, right, Rihanna's not working. We'll get it. You know, we'll give it a minute and a half, and then we'll get out of it. Once you get a flow, and there is that. Look, I can give you the catalog, and you say, I go in and say, work it, right, and the one gig could absolutely go for it, and one gig could absolutely flop.
It's so strange how that happens too as well.
Yeah, it's hard, so what I tend to do, and it's really good advice for anyone that's interested in it or doing it. If you're playing a song and nobody's dancing, right? Well, okay, right. Let it play, because there may be somebody up the back enjoying it, but they don't want to get up and dance. So I look around and I see, are their feet tapping? Are their hands tapping? Are they singing along to it? And I find that, see, if I see somebody who's enjoying it, I'm not going to ruin it on them. I'm going to play it out. You know, I don't care if nobody's dancing. Right? They'll get up to the next one. And it's sometimes a case of if nobody is dancing, I'll be left my phone and go, oh yeah, look, I'm busy.
That's the hardest bit.
It is. It's you're standing there and everyone's like this plonker standing there. The lights are going crazy. The lights are going crazy. Everything's going bucked off, and you're standing there. But not every gig's the same.
Have you had any complete disasters?
I've had nights that just haven't went to plan. I've had one that's in mind, and it wasn't a disaster. It was just it was a gig that I just shouldn't have been doing, because what they wanted, I wasn't told, but his side was all sort of from like Manchester, and the whole family were over from Manchester, so they loved that more. And that Manchester vibe, you know.
That's and one gig is popping into my head. Larchfield. They were all from Manchester, Liverpool, and I really struggled.
Oh, I struggled.
It's amazing how different their style of music is.
Yeah, so they wanted a little bit more of this Britpop sort of stuff. Now, I can play a handful of that. What Works, Blairs and all that. And they were up, but to get them up, it's what do you do? Do you just stand there 4 hours of silence and then go, I know you all love the tunes, but I've only got an hour of it.
Yeah.
Or what are we going to do for the other 4?
I know.
So for the other 4, I'm playing anything to get through. And nothing's working. Everyone's looking at me like I'm this plonker.
Yep.
And I'm going, right, okay. I just got to keep going. I just got to keep going till I get to the point where they are fueled up and ready to go. Her side were from here, but it was very little from her side. Yeah. It was all his side. Well, why not more your side?
It is that thing. If you don't want to be the first person up the dance floor.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, you know,
exactly.
And it's hard. What do you do? Do you say first person up gets a free pint or something?
I know. Yeah.
But when they're up and you've got them going, you've got them hooked in, and you gotta keep. You're the puppet master now. You just gotta keep working them. Yeah. You know, it's very hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard trade.
And I mean, it's the events that you've done kind of says it all, but. You have done some big like award ceremonies and different things like you.
And delighted to be part of them as well. I do all of the AB events stuff. So they've got 5 or 6 events now, from NI weddings to I just recently done takeaway. They do fish and chip as well. Fish and chip has its own category, by the way.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because there's takeaway, right, which the people will enter, but fish and chip is a standalone. Like there is it just needs its own awards. So the guys get one out of that as well, and then they have beauty, fitness, hair and all that stuff. So it's great. And it's great for networking and marketing side of things for my weddings, and it opens you up to a different audience. It is people, and there is young guys and girls there who are on the track to get married, so it opens you up to, they see you playing. And the one thing about those gigs, you don't need to worry. You just go in and you can play anything, and they will just they're gone by the time you're on anyway. You know,
they're there for the night out. They're there for
you just have your finger ready to go and play. You just go Maniac 2000. There we go.
and the feeling, and just when you see everyone react to you press and play.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You can't explain it.
That's where my love for the whole job came into. It was like I was never a dancer. You know, I never really enjoyed dancing. I used to go to under 18s, the Knightsbridge many years ago, under 18s. Well, we were 16, 17, and I remember standing watching the guys DJing, and I just thought, the power is in their hands, and they are playing the coolest tracks, and I want to do that. You know, I want to be that guy that everyone's admiring. You know, also the fact too that they drove lovely cars and they had loads of really nice women. But you know, I was like, dude, I want that lifestyle.
You know? Then you find out it wasn't true.
I found out that you just get angry over taxes, and you know, and you get sleepless nights worrying about the next gig.
Yeah. My first are you convinced question, just to run in the whole event thing. Are you convinced that anyone can just run an event? Because have you seen this video of the Wonka thing going around at the minute?
I am convinced that nobody can run an event unless they are. I don't know what that was all about. I'd have been absolutely embarrassed for. Imagine
you taking your wee ones and your.
I know,
an empty warehouse with a few wee props.
I know that was a scam. That was horrible. But I mean, if you were the organizer of that and you were trying to make that look like you're never going to make it look in a massive warehouse, right? You would need some amount of equipment to do that. And I was thinking, what was I going to do? Have a chocolate fountain and all? I know. No one of those wee ones you get at the weddings. Sitting on a table, mallows and strawberries around it.
But it was just, there wasn't even any, if you haven't seen the clip, I'll try and insert a clip here, but there wasn't any lights, there wasn't any...
Nothing.
And there's a few people who have now seen, they've posted their own videos on TikTok.
Yes.
A guy who was playing Wonka and he's told the story and all.
Yeah,
and,
I saw that.
And he said he didn't even know what he was walking into when he was there.
I know, it's sad. And they were all offered big money to work a whole weekend. And of all places, Glasgow. I wouldn't like to get involved with a Glasgow mum or dad at the end of it.
No, the police came and called the police. Like, how bad does the event have to get where you have to call the police in?
I want the police.
Yeah. The Wonka event is calling police.
All the staff standing there like it's nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Standing, and you know what? The Oompa Loompas, like, they didn't even have orange on their feet.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, come on. And apparently they got the outfits from the pound shop. Mental, absolutely mental. So I am convinced that not everyone can run an event, and there's a lot of stress that comes with it. That's why I don't run them. I'm just a DJ. I like, book me. Don't get me involved.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you ever thought about putting on something?
I did years ago. Not an event. I used to run a club night in Cookstown, and I'll be totally honest with you, and this is totally honest. We were bringing over all the Geordie Shore ones at the time, and what you think is a good thing. It was a run of Mondays in a summer. And I had this Gaz guy and all these different ones all flying in. They were coming to do the gig, and the place was packed out. And at the end of it, I probably made about 500 quid. I would, what was like mad, and this whole big build up was it worked out that I just didn't have it right. I was like, so I'm convinced that I can't run events, but we had fun.
I would say you would maybe be surprised at that. If, on people on the outside, they think that these people are earning millions running events like that. But I would say sometimes that's the case where you're just you're making a few £100 and
and I think the expectation of making millions on your first event is way it's not like that. You need to have consistency and need to be doing something over a period of time to build it up and to make it good, whatever it is. Like these bingo shows and all that are going on now. I see people latch on to that and they're doing brunches and shows and that. It's going to take time.
Yep.
But I wish them all the best. And like any event, I really am a big supporter on anyone that's hungry to do something and they want to make something work. And that's what I love. I love to see people doing well and trying. And if it doesn't work, you got to go, right, well, I tried, As long as you're not putting yourself into a massive amount of difficulty financially, if you can afford to try it and dip your toe in a little bit and see if it works,
because that's what you've done as well. You've added on, like your 360 photo booth and stuff.
I love the 360. I used to have a donut wall, a sweet cart, the whole lot. Because originally when I started out, it was a wedding company where you could hire DJs and it was you could hire out all these different props. It's very hard work. Now I just recommend friends in the industry who have, and it's good. I love that. I love being able to recommend, and I'll always say make sure you let them know because and your guys too. I've recommended your guys, and then your guys would recommend me, and we all work together, and that's the way it should be. And I really love doing that. And now I'm like, look. People will still say to me, do you have the letters? And I'll say, no, I don't, but I know a good guy that has. Let him know.
And that's what that industry needs. Because, I mean, you think of some of the people that are involved, they would never mention anyone's name. There's some people just like, no, sorry, I can't do it. But they're the people that, we don't work with them, they don't work with us. Once you build up that community and you say, I know who's good, there's loads of people that can do it. I get people asking me all the time, can you DJ at my wedding? And as soon as I see the date, I just like, oh no, I hate that point of turning around and saying, no, sorry, I can't. But I'll never leave. You wish there was two of you, almost.
I know. Listen, if I was able to split myself into 5 people, well, I'd be worth a fortune because I could go to 5 different gigs in one night. But I'll always say, I'm sorry, I can't, but here's a list of guys, or here's a few that I would recommend that can sort, to look after you, that I trust would do a good job. Reach out to them, and then you'll get them coming back and saying, that girl got to me, or thank you very much, I appreciate it, and we'll all help each other, along the way.
Yeah. Just before we leave the wedding and the events topic, we had a question a few episodes ago. Are you convinced by wedding buffets?
Yes.
Because now, obviously, with us working, we enjoy the wedding buffets, right? So that's kind of a wee bit of a lift. I'm thinking more of the guest who goes to a wedding who's having a 3-course meal at, say, 5-6 o'clock. And then they're having a buffet at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I almost feel like they put the buffet on just for me. You know, I feel like yes, right. I get it. The buffet can be a waste. It is a bit of
I've
a
seen
waste.
so much waste in buffets.
Oh, waste
The food.
is crazy. Now, when you're with a band and you know the band takes a break and you're on after the band and we're all standing chatting and we're like, we'll go over to the buffet. You know, generally I'm dressed like this at a wedding, right? So I look like I've just gate crashed. You know, whereas the band's all dickied up and looks like they just filter in with the crowd. But the amount of food that goes to waste in a buffet is crazy. The buffet is to please your evening guests who weren't there for the meal. Right?
Yeah.
Only put that buffet on if you've got, 100 guests that are not for the meal. But other than that, some of them are fed before they come to the wedding. And when you eat so much, you don't want to get up and dance. You don't want to drink. You don't want to enjoy yourself. You don't want to ruin your night. So, and I always find it's like people say to me, when are you going to teach? Are you going to teach it right after dinner? And I'm like, yeah, because everyone wants to get up after 5 courses and they're snookered. Give them an hour. Let them relax. Dinner settle. They'll be getting a stitch on the dance.
Yeah, that's so true. Because and us as a wedding band, like we almost. Okay, the two minds. We love stopping for a buffet. We love for a wee bit of a break.
Yeah, I think.
But we hate when the floor's full and you have to stop. The lights go on.
I know.
The food's out.
Yeah.
And getting back to that stage again,
Yeah, because you're winding up you're winding up the cogs and you're getting the cogs going.
Yeah.
They're well oiled, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're gonna take it back down to the start again. Yeah. And that's why. If I'm on a full night, I get into the buffet, I'll just bore the ass clean off them with music until we get to the buffet, and I'll be keeping my dancing queens for after.
Oh yeah,
you know,
100%.
I try not to overcook the music before the buffet because I know I'm going to stop. And then there's venues that make you stop. There's venues, and I think we discussed this before. There's venues that actually make you stop. They put the buffet out
on the dance floor.
On the dance floor, yes. And I know that straight away. I know all the venues that are going to do it. Yeah. And part of me goes, great, because I have no argument on why did you stop for buffet.
Why did you stop on it?
You know, I just thought, let them tear away, and I just joined the conga of buffet eaters.
And again, you never want to be the first one up.
No, well, you never want to be, but I want to be. When they say to me, I don't know why I'm always brought on the podcast and the buffet thing comes up. It's happening in a few of them. I have a mix, Peter. I have a mix for buffet. Mix? Yeah, I must send you it. Actually, everyone laughs at this. It's a good 45 minutes, and it's perfect background buffet music. But it's not all food.
So this is the mix where you can just sneak off. Be first in line.
So do you know when the hotel manager will come up and they'll say, "Would you let them know the buffet's out?" He's normally got a tea towel thrown over his shoulder. He's sweating, and he says, "Will you let them know the buffet's out?" Right? I'll say to my good pal Stephen, I'll say, "I'll go up and get us." Right? By the end of the song, I'll let them know the buffet's out. So nobody knows. I sneak up. I get 2 plates of food, right? All good stuff too. I'm not left with scraps.
Stuff and all too. Yes.
You know, the goujons are just out of the oven. You know, and then I bring them up. We're fully loaded there, and then I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, the buffet. You might get something. with
a goujon in your hand.
And then I'd say, all lights on, all full brights on the dance floor, and all let you know it's a wee break, pull down the music a wee bit, and then that's me, relax for a wee while, and then get back into it, and then we'll get back in with the big tunes.
Our main singer, Danny, he has this massive trick that he does every time, and we fall for it every time. He goes, I'm away to the bog here, you can get me 2 plates going to the buffet, because he doesn't want to be seen in the buffet queue, so you're going to the buffet with 2 plates. And he's sitting there waiting.
I see Stephen does that to me. Stephen will, if he says no, I'm okay, because he doesn't want to go up. So if I come back with 1 plate, he nibbles off mine, and I'm like, you told me you didn't want anything. He's like, it's like that relationship where you're like, do you want anything? And then no one, and they eat it all on you. So I say to Stephen, I'm not bringing you back a plate. You come up with me and fill your own plate. Buffets are good.
They are.
Buffets are good. I love it.
And some hotel buffets are better than their dinner.
Better than the main course. Because the problem is, and I've been these events and stuff. How do you cook for so many people? It's all pre-cooked, and I'm not. The food is fresh, but they're doing them in these big, massive friggin' ovens, and how they're having to keep it warm. So chicken sometimes can be a wee bit dry and whatever. People will always have the arguments. So it's hard to keep that mass amount of food warm.
Yeah.
You know,
I've often thought of doing like a rating the buffet thing.
We thought about that, but I didn't want to put any hotels down.
That's the thing. That is the thing. Because there are some hotels that
they're rough.
I wouldn't touch their food.
Their salad sandwiches are not nice.
No.
There's some, and then there's one that I went to, and they had all these wee things you would get in the Chinese restaurant. These wee pastries with chicken curry and all inside these wee triangles.
Yes. Yep.
And nobody was touching them. I went, well, I will take some home with me.
Yeah.
You know?
There's one in Portrush, and they bring out like wee mini pizzas, and they have like bacon baps, and
I went to one though, and without mentioning anything, it was definitely frozen. It was all frozen gear, and you can just tell, you know. And I mean, if that's the way they want to roll, you know, and that's how they do it, but it was, some of the stuff wasn't great. And then you go to some and you're like, that's top tier.
Yeah.
You're paying good money for that.
You feel like not a man versus food, but you feel like an expert almost when you go in, because you've seen so many of them.
But it's always the same in it. There's always chicken goujons.
Isn't it?
There's always chicken goujons. There must be just like the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Although one, Calevi Castle, getting a mention.
Oh, there we are.
Calevi Castle do bacon rolls. I'm sure there's a few other places do bacon rolls.
I think I know what you're talking about too. Was a wee marquee at the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The marquee, right?
Yeah.
And they're like so. They're so nice that you just want to keep going back for more.
Yeah.
Well done, Calevi.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
While we are talking about venues, and again, I'll try not to mention any, but you just have. But there are some venues that do not make it easy to get in and out of.
That's another thing. I'm actually so glad you brought this topic up. There's some venues that don't care about you as a performer or entertainer. That makes it hard when they're not working with you. Now, I like to be down early. I like to know where I'm going, and as you get into the rhythm of things, you know the venue. And again, just like the hotel, the venue that I talked about there, it's easy, right? It's easy.
Yep.
Back gate opens, I come in the back, I'm right there at the stage. If I have to push flight cases, lift bags and boxes in amongst your crowd, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
But they make it easy for you. There's some that are just so hard to get into, and I mean, it's a case of back-breaking work to get in, and that's not what I'm getting paid for, you know.
And before we go into that, like let's just mention that if you're at a wedding and you're in between that turnaround stage, your way out drinking coffee or your way out of the room, you'll never see what goes on.
No, you don't.
You appear into the room and the DJ's there. Oh,
I know the sweat is set up. The sweat is absolutely greasing, and we're like, my big mate goes, I am breathing out my backside right now, because the speakers are heavy, the cases are heavy, everything that makes it go on, you know, and makes it look good. Yes, you can come in with a light setup, but then who wants to see that? We come in with big stuff, and you know what I say, a band getting in, all the leads, getting it all done, and then you have to go and you have to try and cool down and then look a bit respectable. You know, we go in shorts and t-shirt, and then we get dickied up a wee bit, but some venues really are a struggle.
And see city centre venues, that's
hectic.
The bane of my life.
It's very hard. I got a parking ticket once.
Did you?
Yeah, a parking ticket for parking outside a certain very well-known venue. Very hard to get into the venue, so you have to come up like the service sort of lifts, right?
Yeah.
While they're serving dinner, right? They're like, you know, I'm halfway through a kitchen going, sorry, I'm getting in. They just sometimes don't have it planned, and it's just, all we're asking for is just a wee bit of room, or move that stuff so we can get in. You're trying to get paid, we're trying to get paid, we're all just trying to work together here, guys, you know?
And it's always those venues that, when you're inside, the beautiful venues, right?
Yeah, stunning.
But and that's why they're selected. But I almost wish venues were selected with that in mind as well.
Yeah. I know,
how's my band going to get in there? But then I suppose people don't really think about that.
I have another topic, and it's I always set up with a band, so the band doesn't take up all the space.
Yes.
Big up bands, but because if you give the band the opportunity of all that space, they will
we'll use it.
Use it.
No stage is big enough.
No, I know. I have had, and this you're gonna love this. I have had keyboard players have their keyboards hanging over my decks because I've tucked the decks under because I'm like, dude, I'm on after you. You know. And we had this in just in the south, Darver Castle. Darver's a massive stage.
Yep.
I'm like, guys,
you're sitting in the back.
You too.
That's so true. Yeah.
Like, right, crunch up a wee bit.
Yeah.
Let the DJ in. When the band leave, I'm stuck in the corner, right? And I look I like a wee lost puppy playing all these big tunes, stuck in the corner of the lights, just going to get. It looks
so true. I know.
It looks desperate. But so I get down and I set up with the band. The band goes, "Hey, you're wild early," and I'm like, "Aye." So I can get in with
claim your spot,
claim my spot, and it's not an art. It's a healthy argument that we have on who's going to go where, you know. But you let a band take that stage, they're going to take it. They're going to take it.
Now, I will on the backfire to that. I will say that there have been some DJs we have walked into the venue and he taken up the whole stage.
I get rid of him. Never stop using him. Stop using. Just book me.
Well, I don't think he's doing it anymore. So it's all good.
Just book me. He'll be fine.
What is your favourite part of the country that you've been in? Do you think? Because it does take you to some mad locations, and even like a couple of weeks ago we were down Sligo in the middle of nowhere. Now, when they say Sligo, it wasn't Sligo. It was like 10 mile outside Sligo, and you're just in the middle of nowhere. But you think, how will I will never have known this place, or I would never have travelled to this place unless that gig was on.
Exactly, like there's I mean, the gigs now, you got to drive for the work, and you know it. Not every gig's going to be city centre or on your doorstep. I mean, if I get some in like Claude or Clandy Boy, which is close to Bangor, happy days, right? A good friend of mine always turned around and said, "Why don't you just take them all there?" And I'm like, if it was as easy as that, I know. You need to get in, you need to drive, you need to get on the motorway, and you need to drive. I'm down south quite a lot now. I always find myself Newry and beyond, and it's just a market that I've just sort of fallen into with, you know, because as you do work for someone and then they go, I like him, and then but they're all based in that area. So I get more definitely in the south than I do more towards Coleraine, Portrush and all that. Venues are lovely up there, but I'm definitely more in the south.
We've almost found that too. I mean, I think the grandeur of the venues down there, like the massive castles that you're going down to.
Exactly. That was definitely what it was. Cabra Castle being one of them. Oh, geez, even if you look around that venue, you're seeing all these mad statues. But again, it's not the easiest of venues to get into at times, you know what I mean? You know, it's one of those things where all these places are laid out very, very well, and they're stunning, and big high ceilings, big chandeliers, millions and millions of pounds worth going into them, and you go, fair play to you. And then you walk in and you go, right, I have to set up on this stage, and you know, hope the band will set up here, and
you're going through the tiniest corridor that you could ever expect.
And everyone's flight cases are all waiting there. You're like, who owns what?
There is one in Newry, a very popular hotel, and it must have about 12 parking spaces outside the hotel,
because everyone else
and to get into the place is just
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is horrible to get into. Lovely venue, but there could be about 3 or 4 weddings going on in one night, right?
I get such anxiety. Like when I know I'm going to that places like that, even like city centre ones where you're
about it.
You're loading your stuff out when a club beside you is being released. You know, people are coming out of the club at say 1 a.m. and you're taking your stuff out at 1 a.m. and it's just
we're talking about merchant, aren't we? Well, let me just tell you about that. I had a night where I was bringing stuff out. So basically, when you're coming out and getting in that venue, and they're going to, you know, Cathedral Quarter, obviously, and all's so busy. So I started to get a little bit nervous because I want to bring loads of stuff down and leave it there and then pack the van. But what I'm having to do is either tell Stephen, my good helper, my good friend, to wait at the van and I'll bring stuff to him. But one night we done that, and there's people sitting inside the van and acting
inside the van.
Oh, like the like lights are on the back of the van, the double doors are open, 2 girls just sitting at the back having a yarn, and I'm like, girls, can you please move? So that's why I like these castle-y sort of venues where it's like you're in a loading bay or you're out the back and there's nothing else going on around you, you know. Maybe have the odd agent that's been at the wedding.
I had someone get into my car once thinking I was a taxi. I was just about to leave.
I've had that too. Give us a wee lift up the road, would you? And I'm like, no, seriously, there's me and him and you'll never get in that front seat. Yeah. We'll all jump in the back. I'm like, no chance. Yeah. Start our wee taxi.
I had a venue and it was over the border and they were so far in the sticks where they couldn't get taxis and so I had a venue manager ask me, could I take 3 people up the road? Look what you say in that situation.
I know.
I
had it too. I had it one night. I was on my own. Stephen wasn't with me, and 2 fellas were just like, "Will you run us out the road?" Now, to be fair to them, they were absolutely sound, and they helped me pack the van. So I was like,
yes,
lads, that's 100%. I'll run you out the road.
Yeah.
And they were great crack, you know.
It's a win-win situation then there.
Yeah, exactly. They helped. And I was like, fair play to you, you know. But I hate when people are acting a whack when you're trying to get packed up again. And it's your stuff. Like we could be travelling with the guts of about £10,000 worth of stuff. And people are like, I'll carry it out for you. And I'm like, no, please don't touch it.
I know.
You know, that's my office.
Yeah.
That whole thing is my lifestyle. You know, don't touch it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's so true.
There's so many roads we could go down. It's like drink near equipment. People not having respect for your equipment. You know,
it's and I don't know if it's just drink because even some people come over and they are sober or they're and they just think it's worth £10 and they're just just like coming up to you and throwing their arm around you.
I know, and the problem is that I feel that I'm rude. What I'm saying, but I'm pushing them away in a way. It's just, please have a bit of respect. My decks are there, and if you bring your drink up and you're like, play a wee song, and you're like, please, please stop. That's when I start to worry.
Because if that happens, I mean, the chances of finding that person at the end of the night, or the next day, you're never gonna.
They're gone, and they'll sober up and they'll not have a memory of wrecking, and you're the one who has to, pay for it or get it fixed or whatever.
Have you ever had someone destroy anything?
I've had drink pouring over my equipment a number of times, and people, just acting. Yeah, the decks, like my computer had a vodka and Red Bull poured over decks, and it wasn't loads, but it was a big. The way they came over, they hit it, and it was a big splash. It went like that, and then splashed. It scattered over all the stuff, and the problem is the vodka will dry out like that. The Red Bull is sticky, so when it got into all the wee nooks and crannies of the controllers, my hot cues and everything were sticking and not playing, and I have to go to the next gig and do somebody's wedding and make money, and I don't want to be out by $2,000 because I have to go and buy a new set of decks. And
we resorted to putting on our bass speakers. We have a sign just simply says, "Please don't put drinks on the speaker." The amount of people who use that as a coaster. I
know.
Just put it on the sign.
I did start this thing. I don't know whether you saw on my Instagram. I started this thing. How many drinks can be left around Ryan's bass bins? Oh, right. Now, people have used my bass bins to tie their shoelaces. I put the shoes up on top of it.
My bass bins for people who they're the big speakers that sit at the bottom, and then a pole would go on and another speaker would go on it. So it's arm's length.
Exactly.
It's perfect as a table.
Yeah. So you've got a sort of a big area, a big square at the bottom where you can sit on it. Right. I'd advise you not to at any gig. And then they put their drinks around it, tie their shoelaces on it and all this, and I'm stop leaving your drink, because they set their drink down and then they run off, but it's a bass spin, so your drinks are going and they wobble,
and they wobble
towards the edge, and I'm not there to collect your glasses, so what I do is if they set a full pint down, they're losing it. I'm going to set it to one side, and then 9 times out of 10 they forget about it. But
that's one of the fun games where you just watch them try to look for their drink then. Once you've moved it away, it's just...
Where's my drink gone? Sorry, someone else took it.
And then he's back on another one, spilling all over. Back at round 2.
That really grinds my gears when people don't have any respect for your equipment. And unfortunately, you just have to... The more the night goes on, the more drunk they get, and the more you're sort of like going, right, okay, just please stand, stop acting a whack around my stuff,
Yeah.
I used to have these tar sort of speakers. So it was the basement is what we talked about, and then the arms clicked in, and people. So if they were on a stage, people used to grab onto them like they were a handle in order to pull themselves up, to ask for a song. But if you pull on that, they're just gonna click out, right? Yeah. And they're $3,000 worth of stuff, and I'm like constantly having to clip people's hands. Yeah. Go, stop it!
Yeah.
You
need a bouncer.
I know.
You need a bouncer.
And Stephen Stern, he's great, and he tries his best to stop people from doing. So there's only so much he can do. They're like animals. They're wild animals sometimes.
Have you ever had any like confrontation when doing stuff like that? I've had a few people come up and just because maybe it's as simple as you don't play their song next.
Yeah,
people say that. Play it next.
Yeah,
like you've got your next 3 or 4 that you're going to play. And
yeah, well, I had So a girl come up and she kept giving me that look. See that look? I've always wanted to do this actually when we're on the visual side of a podcast. See when you're playing a song and they look at you and they go, "What's this?" Yeah. Or they do this and they go, change the song, right? So they give you these hand actions, and I'm like, that used to hurt. I used to feel that, but see now I go, nah, I'm in control.
Yeah. When everyone behind her is dancing and enjoying themselves.
I know.
Yeah.
Your music's crap. 50 people are dancing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, play this next. I had one where the guy was asking me to play this song, and I was like, dude, I just like in my mind, but then even the groom came up and says, "Here, my mate sir's asking for a song, or will you stick it on for him?" And I just said to the groom, "Listen, I have all your crowd up and they're all raving. If I play this song, it's going to really ruin the dance floor. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what song it was." And it just shattered the dance floor. And there's this one man up giving it fucking welly on the dance floor, and he couldn't dance. I'm just letting you know that he couldn't dance. So I was at the point of doing all the club classics, all this, and then he wanted Cameo, Word Up, right? Now, I mean, to me, it's a song. It's good
not a
song.
crowd
It's
pleaser,
not a crowd
suppose,
pleaser.
yeah.
It's not something that I would ever pull out as an absolute weapon of a song.
Yeah.
It's just a song.
Yeah.
So Cameo, Word Up, when the bride and groom men started, our good mate, he's over and he wants and I said, "Look, guys, this is not going to work." And he's like, "No, stick it on for him." And I'm like, "It's me that looks like the plonker."
Yep.
And they just kept going on. Now, when the bride and groom, they're the bill pairs, so I just like, right, I'll do it.
See if it is a weird situation. I always have to get on the mic and say, "This is for so and so."
Yes.
I never want to look like that person.
I know. I'm like, I'm keeping up with your requests here. Keep them coming in. What's your name again? Johnny. Yeah. Here's your song.
Yeah.
Here's your blame Johnny.
And it's a private song for him, and he has memories of it, but no one else.
I know
cares,
exactly. Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, guys, I know that I have just spent so long building your crowd up, and then everyone goes to me. They all go, will we go and get a drink? And then I'm trying to fish them all back in again while he's on the dance floor giving it a welly. And I'm like, you, that whole 3 minutes is going. But
and you think that's the end of it, but then he comes back up for another one.
Aye, and he goes, "Do you remember Cameo's other track?" No, I don't. And you can't get away with I don't have it. As we talked about earlier, years ago you couldn't say, you say I don't have it because I didn't bring it with me. Now you can have it because you can stream it and you can play it off my phone. And I try to tell them that I don't have the facilities to do that.
That's
but
a good one.
They will find that you do have an aux lead hanging out for and there's no way around it. They're smart, and I can airdrop it, I can Bluetooth it, I can do whatever.
Or I've had this on definitely 2 or 3 occasions where they come up and they say that they're the DJ. Or they have done DJing, but have been their past
they've done a bit. I used to do a wee bit, and I used to hear, what's that you're playing off, and I sort of feel like, if you're why are you not out tonight? Where's your gig tonight? I'm all for it. But these people that try to tell you what to do, I don't know whether you you saw, or it was on news not so long ago, someone trying to tell a professional golfer how to swing.
Yes.
So you just have to laugh it off, and you just have to say, "Oh, it's good, isn't it?"
What do they expect? Do they expect you just to jump out and say, "Right, okay, I'll go off for 10 minutes here. You take over."
You work away. And the older folk of, I was a DJ back in the day. I had this recently actually. Guy came up and was, "I just don't know you're living now," and I'm like, "No, I do know I'm living, right?" And I'm glad because I've been through the hard times of carrying, as we talked about at the start, 7 records and only having enough to please the crowd and taking all my CDs in. So I done the groundwork and worked my way up, and I feel like, you know, I've achieved everything and done it step by step. Yes, guys are coming in now. Why would they go back to the start? They're coming in on a very easy way of doing it, you know, and it's so easy. Like I can stream any song with a touch of a button, and it's great to have those facilities there to do it.
But again, I don't think you'll ever get that skill of, like, you know, reading the dance floor or, you know, knowing your crowd. That's
is
the
something
skill
that you have to learn yourself and learn how to read a dance floor. It is the you know, I always say I'm no Mystic Meg. I can't make miracles, and all I got to do is play I've got my safe card, my safe bank there, and I've got some new stuff. People think you're going to a wedding and you're playing, you know, Oh What a Night, December 1963, and everyone's you know, doing the conga and all that. Times have changed, and the older folk, please them, give them their stuff, give them their oldie stuff. But what you have to remember is your bride and your groom are in their late 20s, early 30s, and it's not all about you. It's about them, and it's the same goes for the bride and groom trying to tell you what music to play. People have invested in your wedding. Let them hear their song, you know. So it's about everyone being fair and just, you know, try and get rid of those sort of oldie sort of tracks earlier on in the night, and then we keep all the big stinkers for later, and then dropping in some fresh stuff as well, you know.
And that's where, like, you know, the radio kind of works with that, I suppose. You know, you know what's current, and you know what's
exactly.
there.
I know. When I worked for the other radio station, it was harder because we were sort of like 1 year behind, and just in how they played out their stuff. And I lost touch of the top 40 and what was current and what was relevant and what the kids were loving, and then coming back to cool then. It was just like, we're back in. We know we're on the right wavelength then of what's fresh.
It's also amazing how quick a song can come and go.
I know some are so like soulless, like they just drop in a flash and then they go. Prime example would be the likes of like Belters Only, Make Me Feel Good. It's still a banger of a track, but it served its time, and then it gets to a point where it's still good. But it's not that song that they're waiting on, you know. It's not that, you know. We very quickly went into a bit more harder stuff, you know. And that's, as I say, the tracks are brilliant. They're fighting for a lot of the jazzy stuff at the minute, you know, and it's all that sort of. And
the fact that people would say that would be like a throwback as well, you know, like that.
I know,
what?
I know. What is a throwback now?
I know.
I always say that now. Geez, we can't technically class it as a throwback. You know, you go Flow Rider Low or something like that, but that is a throwback. Where now they're talking about something a year ago's a throwback.
Stick Season's a throwback.
It'll not be long till Stick Season's a throwback. You know.
That's. I think we've covered every single thing that we can. On this episode. Thanks so much for coming on.
On here.
Thank you. And like the future for you, are you just going to keep going?
I want to keep going. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any. I don't see any change. Some people's goals are to go to different radio stations or whatever. Cool FM was my goal from the start. I've been a radio listener, a radio nerd, and a Cool FM listener for as many years. I remember my dad many years ago entering competitions on Cool FM, and that's where I think you either have it or you don't. You either have that love for the game or you don't. And when I was growing up, our lives revolved around radio. My parents were young, and my mum being a young mum, was listening to her favourite songs, and they were all, so I was born late 80s, so they were all 90s dance classics. That's where I got my love for that, because I grew up in all that.
Yeah.
And my dad as well. So we were constantly listening to Cool FM. It was never off in the house, in the car, because it was playing all the relevant stuff and the up-to-date stuff and all the cool stuff. Yeah. And I remember all the DJs from the past. And that's what gave me that wee bug and that wee the itch to be that guy on radio. And crazy.
And when do you remember the first time you walked in to the studio?
Couldn't believe it. Yeah, when I walked into Cool. Yeah, I remember my first phone call actually many years ago, getting the call to say that they heard my demo and they'd be interested in giving me a wee shot on the overnights. It was a pinch myself moment, because biggest radio station in Northern Ireland, leading radio station in Northern Ireland, and the bosses be happy me hyping it up. But we work under that roof of a radio station that is ran really well, ran by people who know radio, and I feel good in there. I feel I know radio when I'm in there, and I learn so much every day from everyone, and we all have our own wee ways of doing things. But that first time walking in, it was a real pinch me moment, because I watched the YouTube videos of Cool FM launching, and it was the same path that the presenter walked up, and the same doors that the presenter opened, and I went, wow, I'm actually here. They've actually, for being a young lad driving past Kiltonga with my dad, and my dad saying that's where Cool FM is, to actually driving in and actually going in and actually presenting on Cool, was like that moment where it was wow, you know.
And I suppose even in the early days, you know, getting the call for cover for a presenter who you've listened to for all the time.
Yeah. And presenters you looked up to.
Yeah.
My what insane, but one of my first cover gigs was Drive Time, and I went from being this lad on community radio to covering Drive Time. Made a balls of it. But like what you know, and that's me being totally honest. I was leaving faders up. Because you were so stressed. It was so now you fly through, because you're so used to it. It's like driving a car. You know where your indicators are. You know what way you're going. But back then I was like, oh God, I haven't been in here before.
I'm
overwhelmed by everything. Everything was just firing at me at once. 4 reads. Maybe somebody was calling in for an interview, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. But as time goes on, you learn, and you learn to relax and just take it, and it's radio. We're playing music. We're playing music for people, you know. But yeah, it was a proper pinch me moment to be part of Cool and actually come back. You know, I always said I'll come back. I wanted to come back. I only wanted to go away and learn. And earn and find my place in this whole industry. And then I came back, and I was greeted with open arms. It was really nice feeling to come back and still see some familiar faces, and I just feel like I left as a young lad and I came back a man. You know, I did. You know.
So are you convinced? That's the question then. Are you convinced? You're convinced?
I'm convinced this industry is one of the best industries to be in, be it radio and DJing. And we're on a real good thing, because radio's still so good, and now the world of podcasting, we're no matter what, we're still keeping up with everything.
But the best of both worlds with that, really.
Did see a video recently that AI was going to take over DJing. AI will never read a crowd.
No.
It'll never, whatever it is, whether you have a robot, you can have a false DJ on the likes of Spotify and stuff now. We tried it out on the way to a gig one night to see, and it wasn't picking my favourite songs. So I was like, it's going to take a while. A good friend did say to me that robots will take over, but, people still like that human interaction. And I think they'll maybe take over in years to come, but for our lifetime, it'll still be the human.
Even for the set, if you're walking into a room, it's the setup that is creating that vibe and that atmosphere. There was even a video I seen of just someone had ordered a big plasma screen. It was touch screen, and they were just tapping their song, what they want next.
Aye,
It's not going to work for.
I
It's a
know.
jukebox, really. It's not going to work for.
It is. But that's not. The songs are going to play and stop and play and stop.
Yeah.
And even if they do mix, are they mixing into the right ones, or can they quickly change it to suit what's going on the dance floor? It's luckily in our lifetime, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, we're not to worry about.
We're not to worry about.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in 100 years, let them tear away.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably come back as like a dog or something.
Yeah.
So. I don't know what's going to happen in our
fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall, and I'll just be like, well, I used to do that. Not the way I used to do it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you.
And we'll maybe have you on again soon. You never know.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.